Whoop, whoop. Here we go. It's quite, what's the word I'm looking for? Delicious word I'm looking for. Like today's the 4th of July.
Mhm.
And in the US, that's Independence Day for us. Like liberation, we are free, right? And just curious, how many of us are really independent and free,
Such a good question. So
right?
good. Yes. So good.
So let's dive into a little internal liberation first before we get into our topic today, where we're going to be talking about fear and addiction to fear and all of the,
Resistance to fear.
yeah, all the ways that that comes up.
Mhm.
So I'm just going to ask a question actually first. I'm going to ask, if you're listening, are you willing to focus on your breath right now? Are you willing to add just a little more ease to the way you're breathing? Are you willing to notice without judgment, how are you breathing right now? Are you willing to take a look around your surroundings and notice what you see? And are you willing to do that without judgment? What would that be like? What would it be like if you could look around and see a messy desk and be willing to say that that doesn't matter right now? Would you be willing to look at the traffic that you might be sitting in right now and say, I can be present right now with just what is? Would you be willing to look at your bank account and notice whether it's positive or negative and not judge that? Allow it not to mean anything about who you are. Would you be willing to allow a little more ease into your life? Would you be willing to allow yourself to grow and expand? Would you be willing to allow yourself to see everything as it is in this present moment? And would you be willing to allow that not to mean anything, good or bad, right or wrong? Would you be willing? Would you be willing to create within you, from a space that I can feel or sense anything within me, and it's okay? Would you be willing to allow yourself to be neutral? What are you willing to allow? We're going to talk a little bit today about kind of a combination of the 39th gene key, which has a shadow of provocation. You might be poking some people's buttons today. A gift of dynamism, which allows us to be dynamic, to move through anything, to be in motion with what is. And a city of liberation. We're going to be talking about how that shows up in our real world. And how do we move from living in a place of fear, lack, need, want, judgment that paralyzes us and keeps us in purgatory, and allow that to grow and expand to where we can perhaps experience the greatness of who we are. Are you willing, sister?
Willing. Let's do it. It's funny, before we got on and talked about the podcast, I wrote down being willing and allowing. And I don't know if those are emotions, but I think those are probably the two most what is the word I want to use?
Essential creation tools.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we talk about all of the, joy, ease, flow, or whatever, but like, and maybe receiving is in there too, but like the allowing and the willingness. Are we willing to
Yeah.
feel anything we need to feel and allow it to move through it? When I think of allowing, it's like to move through us with ease, and it just comes and it goes, right?
Yeah. Um, we usually talk just briefly about the podcast beforehand. For those of you that are listening, we talk a little bit now about kind of some bullet points that we want to touch on and just the generalness of the topic. But we don't script this. We don't plan for anything. We just allow it to flow, and without judgment. Right? Whatever comes up comes up. If it feels playful, if it feels a little awkward, sometimes it's like it's all good. And um, so I just had an experience with a client, and obviously anonymous. Um, but one of the things that we were discussing, one of the things that I was trying to kind of poke and provoke a little bit within her was this idea of wanting to change, needing to change versus willing to change. Having an experience of intense fear and anxiety, um, not being in a place like this person was able to feel like she could breathe. And one of the things that I was asking is, are you willing to be calm? Are you willing to relax? Are you willing to see joy? Are you willing to be present? Right? Because without that willingness, if we're in a space of I want to or I need to, we're in lack. We're not experiencing that. We're kind of stuck in that focus. I know you, Erin, have oftentimes said, like, am I willing? That's something you've been saying for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
How has that willingness, how have you used that as a tool with the triggers or the issues that you have seen as your problem, which we
Yeah.
know is also the gift that you
Yeah.
have that you bring to the world, right?
Yeah. I wanted to say something real quick before when you were talking about your client. And I think we, as humans, we want to like separate ourselves or like, oh, well, you don't understand because you haven't been divorced before. You don't understand because you haven't lost money, or you don't understand because whatever it might, or health, or whatever we're trying to label it as. But those are just like the portals to how we all really feel, right? Like we all
Mm-hmm.
feel fear and resist fear. It's just what is our flashlight, shining on us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when we can actually see that, then we can see like, oh, it doesn't matter what it is, right? We all just experience the same emotions. And I can't tell you, Tanya, what you feel in your body versus what I feel, how fear feels, right? But
Right.
it's the same thing. And I think we try to be like, but you don't understand, but we all have our thing, right? Or multiple things. So I think that's, I just wanted to like highlight that, because I think we can easily be like, well, it's different because you don't understand. And we kind of use that as a way of like, then I don't want to say I don't have to change, but like, you don't understand. So it's different for me, or it's more difficult for me, or we use that as more evidence as to why we don't want to change. But when you said about, I've been using that for long term, or being willing, it's like, it's a choice, right? And it's getting to see that. And I think for a long, long time, when I was reading up on the 39th key in Gene Keys, it was talking about how the first 7 years of your child's life, is really just about letting them play. But we have been, as a society, indoctrinated of like putting our children into school and getting them to conform and be a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So we're taught very early on, we don't have much choice, right? Like our parents are telling us, this is what you're going to wear. This is what you're going to do. This is when you're going to wake up. This is when you're going to go to bed.
This is who you're going to be.
the whole gamut, right? So I think
Mhm.
it's a returning back to, no, I do have free will. And am I willing to make, which what we want, we say we want something, but
Mhm.
we aren't willing to experience what we need to experience, or to have that experience in order to have what we want, right? We
Yep.
want it without, what is it? It's just like a snake being like, well, I don't want to be in my skin anymore, but I don't want it to be really uncomfortable when I like try to get out and it's really tight. And, but if you think about a snake, if a snake stays in its skin, it dies, right?
Mhm.
And this is what we either shrink or we expand, and we are meant to evolve. So for me, asking myself and me getting to see, like, where am I blocking myself? Where am I not willing to feel certain feelings in order to have what I want?
Mhm.
And it I hope, one of the things that I think about with this podcast is like really elaborating or highlighting that change isn't this always this rainbows and unicorns and fairies thing that happens, right? Like I think a lot
No,
of
it's downright fucking uncomfortable.
it's a lot of self-help books or self-help, whatever. It's just like, oh, we can have what we want and we can manifest everything and da, 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 da. And it's like, yeah, we can. And we got to fucking feel some heavy shit to get there, right?
Yeah. Are
And
you willing to just allow all of
all of
it
it. Yeah.
to be there?
Yeah. So, obviously I've said before, money is my thing. And
And
I don't
not
want to say money.
specifically making money,
No, no, no,
but
no.
being able to spend it,
Yeah. Use it. Use
right?
it for what I want, right?
Yeah.
For what I want, because I want it. And there's been conditioned probably shame and guilt of using my money in the ways that I want. And, I've talked about this before, but, CFP brain, you're supposed to save money for retirement. And that's not to
Mhm.
say that you use all of your money. That is not what I'm advocating. But I'm also advocating that you live currently. Like, we have so many people that save and hoard all of this money for retirement, and we just schlep away and hate our lives now, right?
Yeah.
And we think that future is going to be better. It's not, if we don't change how we feel now. So experiencing, that fear and the allowance and not resisting it. I think I resisted feeling fear for a long, long time.
Resisted feeling fear, resisted feeling anger, resisted feeling shame, resisted feeling all of those things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been there with my body, with my health, um, becoming willing to experience all of that. There's a saying in like the coaching community and in the transformation community at large, whether you're talking, Dr. Joe or Dr. Hawkins or Abraham or whatever, um, is being um, willing to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like the thing that was oftentimes said to me, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a few moments where I was just like, I don't want to. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. I hate this. But when I got willing to feel discomfort, which the irony that you and I can see oftentimes now from a different perspective is that we were
I was
uncomfortable.
going to say, the funny thing is you were already uncomfortable, right? But we're just
Right,
not having what we want in the uncomfortable.
right. So being willing to be uncomfortable and then choosing how I wanted to sense and perceive my world instead was so liberating because I'm willing to be uncomfortable now. I'm willing to experience those moments of fear. So I just got back, for those of you listening, I just got back from 5, 6 days away. I went to an access consciousness bars and foundation training. And I made the decision like 2 days before to just go.
Tanya pulled an Erin.
I totally did. Um, you started it with one of their books.
Yeah.
You passed on, it's been maybe about 2 weeks or so-ish now since
Yeah.
you started sending me pages from this book, Money's Not the Problem, You Are. And we were both just like, this is fucking awesome because it's like all the things that you and I have talked about. So I go off and I just am like, I wonder if there's one near me that I could go just like check out. Not because I feel like I need to um, to fix something or to heal something because I feel really good. But I'm just curious, like, what else is possible? What else could I be playing with? What people might I meet, you know? And so I just picked up and went and came back last night and was noticing, like, I got back and my husband felt like he was happy to see me. And he sat down and he was like, all right, tell me about how was it? I was talking about the people that I met and how amazing this was. And noticing that I came in with, like, the first day I came in with this attitude of I don't need anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need anything. I'm just here for some fun and curious, like who I might meet. And then I started noticing a few little things coming up. And um, in that was discomfort, right? So then I just started asking myself, well, what are you willing to feel? How much can you allow yourself to feel any fear or discomfort or agitation that's being brought up in these things? So I started leaning into that. So when I came home last night, at first, my husband was all like, it felt like there was this great flow between us. And then some things started coming up, and I was just like, oh. And after about, I don't know, the fifth or sixth thing late last night, as we were sitting there talking, he was like, I'm still noticing things feel hard. And so I asked him the question, would you be willing? I said, I want to give you a question, total choice if you want to see it this way or not. But would you be willing to ask, what would it be like if this were easy? What would it be like if this had some ease to it and some fun to it? Talking about our marriage, our relationship. And he's like, well, I kind of thought I'd been asking that question. And I said, well, are you asking that question or are you asking why it's so fucking hard? And he's like, oh, okay, fair enough. Right. Um, and just before we kind of got to this point, I noticed that I sensed in my body my emotions starting to come up, tears starting to come up. And in the past, like I've had this whole evolution of don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, to girl, let it out. Like let all the tears come out. To now I was in this space of okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm feeling tears wanting to come up. My emotions, I'm noticing the sensation within my body that I've identified as emotions are coming up. And in this moment, I want to choose. I want to choose. Do I want to be in my emotional brain while I'm having this discussion? Or do I want to be in my creative brain? Do I want to be in a space of what else is possible? And so I stopped talking for a minute, just kind of like, okay, I'm willing to be uncomfortable right now. I'm willing to notice the sensation in my body and make a choice, a different choice. And that's when I asked him that question. We do this to ourselves. Like, first, we get focused on everything that's wrong, everything that's bad, everything that's not right. I don't want to feel that way. I need this to be different. I want this to be different. And it's all these things that are outside of ourselves. But where we're experiencing these sensations is inside of our bodies. And, first it's like loosening up that practice to be able to allow it to come out, to be allowing ourselves to express it. And then once we're in that allowance, then having this choice, how do we want to let this come up? And as long as we're focused on, I don't want to feel this fear, I don't want to feel this discomfort, I don't, I need you to change so that I don't have to feel this way, we're prisoners in our own reality.
I'm like, yes, 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 yes,
Right?
yes, yes.
Right?
But that's what we're taught,
Yep.
right? We're taught, and it's changing that narrative of I am always, and when I say control, all I mean by that is I have authority, autonomy over myself and my body, right? Like I am in control of myself and my emotions.
You are the
That is
creator,
it, the creator, right? That is
right?
the only thing that we have any type of control over. But we are taught if we change all of these things, if everyone else changes all of the things outside of us, then we can finally feel no fear within us. Versus, like we've already said, allowing the fear to come
Mm-hmm.
and moving through it and not resisting it.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I was going to say, what about for you with health for you? How did your fear show up, and how did your resistance to fear show up with you?
Yeah. So for me, how fear would show up was if I can't find the right medication, if I can't get the right diagnosis, if I can't figure out what's wrong with my body, what's going to happen? I need a diagnosis. I need a medication. I need someone to see what's wrong with me so that I can fix it. But that's a broken algorithm.
Yeah.
Like that focus on the wrongness, that focus on the brokenness is what kept me stuck there. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to be drained of my energy. I don't want to be stuck at home. I don't want to die early. I don't want to fall prey to my family's genetics. I don't want, right?
And we do
Me.
think that we do. I mean, for someone might be watching, they're like, well, I don't want those things, which is very true, right? That gives us
Mhm,
that contrast. But we live in a law of attraction universe. So when we
mhm,
focus on what we don't want, we get more of what we don't want.
yeah,
So it's there and it's provided to us so we can see, okay, this isn't what I want,
mhm,
but then starting to focus on what I do want. And so I think that that's important for people, because I used to be like that. It's like, but I don't want to not have money. I don't want to, but it's also that resistance of feeling whatever we need to
mhm,
feel. And then also at the same time looking towards, okay, well, what is it that I do want? What do I do want to create? What is my body? What do I want my body to look like? What do I want my bank account to look like? How do I want to feel on a daily basis?
yeah. I talk about this in a very light way, which for some people is very provocative. It's very
I'm like, say it. Just
you
say
got to
it.
get good at dying.
Yeah.
You got to get good at dying.
Yeah.
Um,
Wait, I want to say something here too, because I think a
yeah,
lot of people say, oh, you're going to feel this and you're not going to die. Bullshit. You are going to feel it and you're going to die. Whoever you used to be 2 minutes ago is not going to exist anymore. The Erin that used to be there 6 months ago, 2 hours ago, whomever, right? As we're constantly evolving, she's not there anymore. The Tanya isn't there anymore. She's dead.
Nope.
New Tanya. So
Yep.
we do die. Our cells die. We
Mhm.
create and generate new cells and things.
Yeah. I've been saying for a while, like get good at dying. That's what you want to do. Like get good at living, but also get good at dying. Like just allowing all of that. the new stuff that you're creating is that vitality, it's that creation, it's that living, and the stuff that you're allowing to die off, to unbecome, right? To destroy, to kill off is us allowing ourselves to change. And if we're stuck in the, but I don't want to die, but I don't want to die, but I don't want to die, it's the same thing, right? Everything all comes back to this sensation of it's either within our physical bodies, it's either something that's allowing us to expand, it's allowing us to breathe, it's allowing us to inspire, right? Inspiration is if you break the definition down of that word, it's basically to like take in breath. We can't live if our hearts aren't beating and we're not breathing. We're dying, right? So um just thinking about I'm gonna go down a hole here for a second, but just like think about your lungs. Everybody, I want you to just think about your lungs right now. Every breath in is an inspiration. Every breath in is taking in life. And then your body takes all of that oxygen to every single cell within your body. And then it takes out the garbage. When you exhale, you're expiring. You are exhaling. And with that, you're taking out 3 molecules. You're taking out some garbage. You're uncreating, you're destroying, you're allowing a little bit of your cells to die. Your cells know how to do it. Your body knows how to do it. Your body knows how to take in breath, inspire, live, expand, grow, and to die, exhale, to let go of that, to take an extra particle out of the body and send it off on its way, right? Our bodies know how to do this. Nature knows how to do this. Nature knows how to grow a flower, to start as a seed, to nurture and grow, to bloom, and then to return to the earth to die, right? And then to start over. The flower doesn't fear its death. The flower isn't afraid to become the next version of itself. It just does. And there is no judgment, good or bad, right or wrong, about what stage it is in its becoming, even if that is in its death. So, all right, tangent, tangent. Get good at dying, people.
Okay, so for people that actually want to know, like, I think this is the other thing I thought about. I was like, okay, so how do we do it? Like, tangibly, like, what did it look like for you? How did you get good at feeling the fear?
How I got good at feeling the fear was I think there were a number of different modalities that I played with. I did some EFT, I did some meditation, I did some hypnosis, I did some breath work. Um, One of the practices, as odd as this may sound, was I practiced dying. And I even actually got to sort of, I call it checking my work. Um, I got to have that this week. So I would find things in my life that scared the living shit out of me.
Name a
Moments in,
couple.
so um, one moment was when I was in a car accident. I
Mhm.
was 18 years old. I was going down a backcountry road and I had just removed my seatbelt to try and reach back in my car to grab some CDs or some cassettes. I don't remember which one this car was. And a kid was just learning how to drive. He ran a stop sign and I hit the windshield with my head. And I thought that like my whole life pretty much changed in that moment because I had applied to be in the Air Force. I wanted to fly jets. Um, I I I wanted to like I had all these big dreams and plans for what I wanted to do. And when that happened, and I had a concussion and a brain injury, in that moment, my whole life just felt like it had gone.
Mhm.
Um, when I was whitewater rafting on the Tully River in Australia several years back with a group of friends. And we got dump trucked out of the raft. And what that means, dump trucking, is basically they educate you before taking you out that if the raft gets flipped and you're tossed out, that you come up in the airspace underneath the raft. Well, dump trucking means that it basically dumps you out and then rights itself. So when you come up, there's only boat, there is no airspace. So we're on a class 4 rapid, and that water came over the rocks and was just pounding down on the boat and holding it in place. And we were trying to come up and had all this force of this class 4 rapid pushing water down on our heads. And I was for sure that I was about to die. I was about to drown. And so one of the things that I started practicing, I'm like, geez, what the fuck is wrong with me? Because I would sit and I would meditate and I would practice. I would take in a breath and then I would exhale, and I would sit there and I would notice the sensations start to come up in my body were like, take a breath, take a breath, take a breath, take a breath. And I would imagine being under that water again. And I would practice just letting my body know we can take a breath at any moment. We survived that. We can survive this. Like just allowing myself to practice a little internal self-soothing. So I would take those moments like that, like nearly drowning. I had another moment where a very good friend of mine, so having grown up with a mom that identified as a lesbian, actually, I think she was more like bisexual. I had all kinds of patterns and conditioning about what it meant to be in an intimate relationship. And so here I found myself really close friends with somebody and wanting to have this intimacy and thinking that it meant sex as well, because growing up, that's what that intimacy meant. Like wanting to tell this person how much I love them and how like in love with them I was. And then thinking also like I don't want to leave my marriage. I'm not looking for that either. But I need to express this, and fear and terror and shame that was coming up. Like one of my greatest fears was that my husband would be like, you feel that way? I'm disgusted. And logically, like up in my head, in my rational mind, when I'm in that space, not in my emotional mind, but when I'm in my rational mind, I know that that wouldn't be true. But there was very much a part of me inside that was like, if you say this, they might both be like, ew, I don't want you. Like, I'm disgusted, or I don't love you, or I don't feel the same way. And that would bring up terror. So sometimes I would sit and I would imagine telling my husband that I was in love with a woman as well as like him, and that I had no idea what that looked like. I didn't want to leave my marriage. I didn't expect her to reciprocate, and just all the fear and the shame that that brought up, and just allowing myself to experience that, and then allowing that to be present, allowing those sensations to be present in my body and being able to breathe through them. Like that self-comforting, that
You use the word
caring.
self-soothing, right? Like the
Yeah.
self-soothing, that's what we're doing for ourselves, right? We're teaching ourselves no matter what, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. So allowing that fear to be there, allowing shame to be there, and simultaneously then choosing care, choosing compassion, choosing just that gentleness of acceptance, and allowing myself to be who I am, And then I've had experiences where like I did actually express that to my friend and to my husband. And once I expressed that, it was like things shifted for me dynamically. They shifted for me. I told her, I don't need you to respond. I don't need you to say anything. I just needed to be able to express that and live through it. Basically like showing myself that I can survive this. I can be in a state of thinking that I'm about to lose everything and I can survive it.
Mhm.
So for you, how has that shown up for you?
I think the key word that you said was sitting with it, right? We
Hmm.
are a society that is full of distractions. We feel something, let me get on my phone. We feel something, let me go shopping. We feel something, let me eat something. Let me, watch some TV. Let me do something,
Have a
anything
drink, have
other.
sex, drugs,
Yeah, name it, whatever we're doing to
work out.
avoid, yeah, just feeling. And I think for both of us, and it's going to look different for every person, right? We have to like check in with ourselves, like what is that? But it was, for me, it was sitting and it was feeling and it was imagining, like my worst case scenario, because it's not the thing that we're most afraid of, right? Whatever the thing is, this is what I was talking at the very beginning of the podcast. It's not the thing we're afraid of, it's the feeling that we are unwilling to feel, right? So for me, if all of my money was gone, what would I feel? I would feel deep embarrassment. I would feel deep shame and guilt. And, having that story of my past around the same age that Grayson currently is, and having to tell my daughter, and having all of those feelings that I did not want to feel, which is what has kept me doing, not now, right? But that's what has kept me, working and saving from that place of I don't ever want to feel that way. So sitting in, if you want to call it meditation, or just envisioning, you have no money. You log into your bank account and you have nothing. You have no investments. You have no home. You have nothing. And feeling deep shame and embarrassment and guilt.
Hmm.
And still, like you said, that self-soothing, like hand on heart, like I'm okay, right? I'm still lovable. I'm still worthy. And that's where that came up for me too, of like, if I don't have any money, then what am I worthy of then? Because money for me has been equaled to worthiness, right?
Hmm.
So if I don't have that, then is anybody going to love me? Is anybody, and this is why I say it's so comical in the sense, right? Because you're saying the same thing, just a different circumstance, but we're really talking about, are we still lovable? Are we still worthy? And allowing and showing ourselves that we are, right? Like we are still lovable and we are still worthy no matter what happens.
And
And it's
do we still have our power, our vitality, our liberation? Like oftentimes that gets tied into our health. We see it show up in money, we see it show up in relationships. Like what power do I have, what energy? Really, like
mhm.
money, power, all of those things come down to energy.
Yeah.
Do I still have energy? Do I still have the vitality?
Yeah. So, practicing that, and it's wasn't easy. But this is the other thing I think is so important, is like, just like anything else, right? Like the more you do it, the better you get at it, the quicker your recovery time is. Like it never goes away, right? As long as you continue to evolve and exist and expand, you're going to have fear.
Hmm.
But how do we allow it more? How do we work through it quicker? And not from a rushing standpoint, but just like, yeah, you know, died a million times before, here we go again, right?
Hmm.
And looking at it from a place of, and this is, I've talked about from the unknown, right? When we look at the unknown, a lot of us feel fear and resistance and worry and doubt. versus looking at it, here we go again, like wonder and curiosity, like, oh, who am I going to be on the other side of this now that I experience this, fear,
Mm-hmm.
and allow that. And so kind of changing the way that we look at it, it's not a terrible thing. It's like, what do we get to become on the other side of it?
Yeah. Who are we remembering ourselves to be?
Yeah.
And the just the liberation that that creates when we're willing to feel everything, it's and to just allow everything that is. I was thinking about that when I did a very quick little live this morning, and I was talking about like the tree, um, with the idea that we can't feed others by starving ourselves of our greatness. I was thinking about the tree, and the tree has all the information it needs in its seed to become what it is, right? And it is in co-creation with everything outside of it, but it's in a co-creative place, um not a needing or a wanting. It's willing to receive the sun. It's willing to receive the water. It's willing to just be what it is. And that is how it makes a contribution. That is how it um, becomes the shade or the fruit, right? It's how it can give to others by it, being what it is. And us as us as human beings, us as yeah, humans, right? What would it be like if we just allowed ourselves to be who we are, to be our most authentic selves? And that means that there's going to be the humanness of fear, there's going to be the humanness of shame, there's going to be the humanness of all the old stories of what our culture says we should be, what our religion says we should be, what our politicians say we should be or not be. Like, if we just allow ourselves to be who we are, the most authentic versions of ourselves, and to allow ourselves to be in a space of wonder and curiosity, then we can experience and allow the fear and simultaneously allow the joy and expansion. We can have those sensations, we can have those perceptions,
And have the
and just
duality. I don't know if you exactly said that right, but like we can experience both, right? We can experience the fear and the joy of like, oh my goodness, I'm doing this and I'm so scared, and it's totally okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So with that practice, so I'm going to bring it back to the 39th key, and talking about this concept of provocation. Sometimes that's seeing the provocation outside of ourselves, and sometimes it's allowing the provocation within us, like um, knowing that living in a co-creative universe, living in a man. Did I freeze?
No, I'm just yawning constant.
Yay!
I went all the energy. Okay, go ahead.
um, that when we just are in that space of allowing whatever is provoking within ourselves, and really being able to take ownership of that. We could do a whole nother podcast on ownership. um, but if we just allow ourselves to know that whatever we're feeling that inside of us. And if we allow ourselves to feel that way and allow that ease to move through us, then from that provocation comes this dynamism. It comes that ability to be able to flow with whatever is, to step outside of saying this is good or bad or right or wrong, I should or I shouldn't. Anytime those shoulds come up, we're shitting on ourselves, right? And sometimes maybe maybe that's what we got to do. But allowing that dynamism truly then does give us that liberation and that ability to move, to go to that, like, what is provoking us, what is bringing up this fear, and it seems like it's outside of us. Like, we could get it, we could even touch on the whole thing that's going on with, I don't pay attention to the news anymore, but I am aware, because of those around me, that there's things coming up about abortion and women's rights to choose, and seeing that as power that's being taken away from us, versus realizing that our power is within us, being able to make that choice within us and what we want to create, because fighting against this thing outside of us is just going to keep us focused on where we are not free, where we do not have choice, right? It's shining the flashlights on the want, the need, the don't have, the not okay, the this is wrongness. We're focused on that wrongness, and things don't get fixed or changed or evolve from focusing on that, right? So whatever is provoking us, whatever is bringing us into that space of fear, of shame, of judgment, can we just allow it to be? And know that, like, in this moment, we're okay.
Mm-hmm.
In this moment, I can breathe. My heart is beating.
And it's a practice.
Yeah. That practice of just allowing.
Because we've been addicted to doing a certain thing, right? We're addicted to watching and seeing, and we think that this is the way it's going to, make things better. If we focus on this and we talk about this, whether it's war, abortion, or lack of, we can't have it. Like, I'm like with you, like, I don't watch the news, right? But I think we all know that Roe versus Wade got overturned or something, right? So if we keep focusing, fighting on this, but if that worked, then we would never have any wars. We would never have any protests. We would never have any of those things, right? It just creates more of the same versus what is it that we want, and focusing on that. And like I said at the beginning, right, we think it's helpful because we're seeing, well, this is what I don't want. This is what I don't want.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So now you know what you don't want. So let's stop focusing on what we don't want, and let's talk about what we want.
Mm-hmm. And being able to allow all of that to exist. And instead of being in the rightness or the wrongness of something, now I'm burping, just allowing all of that to just be.
Yeah.
And then making a choice for ourselves.
Yes.
I choose to feel differently. Am I willing to feel differently? Am I willing to let the fight part of me die, that wants to just be like, this is wrong, this is an injustice? Am I willing to let that go, to embrace peace, to embrace
love,
choice, love, all of it? What am I willing, if I'm allowing of all of it, I am willing to feel or to sense whatever's going on and let that be okay.
I think a lot of people also confuse condoning and allowing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same, right?
Mm-mm.
Not condoning that something is okay, not condoning that it,
because condoning is also a judgment.
Yeah.
To say that this is okay or not okay is a judgment. Like, well, I condone this, but I don't condone that.
Yeah.
Right. And anytime we are in judgment, we're not in possibility.
Yeah.
Things don't change from a place of judgment. It's a fixed position, it's a fixed focus on a rightness or a wrongness.
Yeah.
Opinion, judgment, condoning versus allowing versus willing. Like, am I willing am I willing to just allow both sides right now? Because within that, then I have choice, I have possibility. I can create something different.
Good.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we need just a little second of like bringing people back, because I can kind of feel the energy of the people that are listening right now. And there's some people that are like, oh yeah, girl, you just stirred up some shit. And I'm just gonna ask, are you willing in this moment right now to inspire, to take in, to breathe in, and to exhale, to let go of? Let's just focus on our breath for a minute. Are we willing to just in this moment right now, let all those other things fall away, the right, the wrong, the good, the bad, and allow ourselves to just breathe in, breathe out? Are you willing? And for those of you listening, you cannot see the smiles on both Erin and I's faces right now. But yes, I am willing. I am willing to just be present in this moment, present with my breath, present and grateful for this heart that's beating and it's allowing me to be alive and vital and well and feel all the feelings with ease and flow and joy and love. So fun playing with you.
So good. Until next time.
Yes.